What if a waterfall, instead of flowing with gravity, felt the need to control the exact path that it took? To decide where it should go, how it should fall, what the right route was. It might still reach the water below, but it would close itself off to every other path, every easier path, every more natural path. Perfection in nature isn't control, it's efficiency, it's responsiveness, and it's flow. If you're an ambitious and highly capable person, then you're going to know what I'm talking about when I say that there's this version of control that looks and feels like being responsible, like having it all together, like knowing the path that you're on and sticking to that path. And it comes with this undercurrent of feeling like I'll just do it myself, that this way that I have outlined is likely the best way, the easiest way. There's this constant low hum in your life of just holding everything together. And this isn't a productivity problem. It's not like you don't get things done or that you don't hold things together. But what this really is a philosophical problem. And it can lead to problems in your life that are really hard to recognize, but that can leave you feeling a lack and stuck. And I want to talk about that today. At the real root of this need for control is fear. And I get it because this is me. It's fear that what you care so deeply about can only happen if you do it this one way. Fear that if you trust somebody else to handle it, then they'll let you down. Fear that if something doesn't go right, then it's going to expose you to vulnerability. It's fear of vulnerability. Because the moment that you loosen control on a situation, on a relationship, on a goal that you're pursuing, and the path that you've chosen, then you introduce some uncertainty and you're introducing yourself to the unknown. Control feels like competence, but there is a real cost to this that is really hard to recognize, and here it is. Every time that you insist on doing something your way or think that there's only one right way for you to go about doing something, then you're making a trade. You're closing doors to receiving help, to the possibility that there are better solutions out there, to unexpected positive outcomes, and to seeing other people's capacity for stepping up in your life. And that cost is so hard to see because things are still getting done and you're clinging to that feeling of being in control because it's the only thing that you're comfortable with, because you are a capable, high achieving person. There are two different cycles here that I think are really helpful to outline. The first cycle is the cycle of control. Our need for control shuts out alternative options and closes us off from seeing those options. This does two things. It doesn't allow room or space for us to experience ease or flow, and it doesn't allow for other people to step up in our lives and for us to receive help. This cycles into us not achieving our desired outcomes or it being really difficult for us to achieve our desired outcomes. We're constantly having to push and to grind. And that cycles right back into us feeling like we need to control everything more and more, and that to achieve our desired outcomes, we really do have to grind and push. Whereas the other cycle is starting off with us letting go of some of that control, the belief that there's only one right way to do things. And that is going to open us up to seeing all the different possibilities for us to expand into what we hope to achieve, which opens us up to alternative options that may be easier and more efficient, and to receiving help from others. This makes us more efficient at achieving our desired outcomes, and ease and flow seem like they can be a part of the process, and it reinforces our ability to continue to let go of the need to control and perfect every element of our goal pursuit or every element of our life and the people in it. This belief that we need to control everything and that it's every man for himself is not coming out of thin air. Especially in Western culture, we're taught that nothing worthwhile comes easily and that you need to be the one who handles all the responsibilities in your own life, that doing everything yourself is strength and needing help of any kind is a weakness, and that struggle and grinding for something means that it's valuable and that your work is valuable. This is rugged Western individualism that has been ingrained in us as a value. This is the Protestant work ethic and the lasting effects of that on our culture and society. But this is a script and it is not the truth. And it has been so difficult for me individually to kind of get this rooted out in my own life and even acknowledge that it's been a problem for me and the things that it's closing me off from. And so that's why I cared so much about talking about it today. Because if you never question it, then you end up living inside of it without realizing that there's a better option or a different way to go about living your life. There's this quote that has stuck with me for years now that I heard while listening to a philosophy podcast. And I believe the quote is from Leo Tolstoy, but it goes like this. You stop being a philosopher the moment you become more concerned with answers than you are with the question itself. Control is an attachment to answers and to the feeling that this is how this has to go in order for it to turn out how I want it to, and clinging to that. That is control. But a philosopher, a lover of knowledge and expansion and ideas and figuring out new, innovative ways to do things, stays open to possibilities, open to continually circling around the question in order to explore what else may be possible. You're open to being wrong, yes, but also to being surprised and for better things to emerge. Control turns you into this manager of everything and everyone in your life. You're managing the people in your life. You're managing outcomes. And you're just clinging to these ideas of how things need to be and how people need to show up in your life. But openness to different possibilities and different ways of doing things allows things to expand in ways that you might not have expected them to. And just like that waterfall finds ease by following gravity, the ease that we're limiting ourselves to in our lives is very real because of this need for control. We end up doing things that are harder than they need to be. And sometimes we won't even reach that water that's waiting for us at the bottom, or our end goal, so to speak, when we're clinging to the idea that we think that there's only one right way to do something. Sometimes that belief in itself keeps us from being able to see alternative paths that are going to be way easier or way more effective at getting us to where we want to go. And I also want to talk about how this feeling of control blocks people from showing up in our lives in ways that would be really awesome and helpful for us and foster a sense of connection. People won't show you their true capacity if you're constantly managing everything. People will take a back seat if you insist on driving, not because they can't step up or because they don't want to, but because there's simply no space for them to. And this shows up absolutely everywhere in your personal relationships, in work relationships, in collaborations, and even when you're interacting with strangers out in the world. If there's no room for somebody to step up and to help you, then you are closing yourself off from receiving from anybody. You're signaling to the outside world that I don't need you, I don't need help, when you're really feeling on the inside that I'm capable, I got this. And both things can be true and often are true, but they're still costing you the possibility to experience help and connection and ease. Ease is not the enemy. Ease is not laziness. It's not a sign that something doesn't matter or that you're not willing to work for what you care about. Ease is often a sign that you're finally willing to work with reality instead of fighting and trying to control it. The waterfall is not lazy for taking the easiest path that has already been carved for it or that gravity shows it where to go. It's just being efficient. There are always multiple ways to get to the same destination, and clinging to the idea that there's only one right way to do things isn't integrity, it's rigidity, and that's oftentimes going to hold you back from sometimes ever reaching that end goal. And I've experienced this in my own life. What you actually want, and what we all want, which is more connection, more support, more capacity, more life, requires you to loosen your grip. I know you're capable, I know you're smart, and I know you're ambitious, but I want you to ask yourself, what would change in your life if you stopped insisting that there was only one right way to get to where you want to go? What would change if you stopped insisting and controlling on how things had to arrive in your life? And what would you possibly let in if you weren't always trying to control every outcome and every person in your life? Life oftentimes is as expansive as you allow it to be. And I want that for you.